We are live with another emergency edition of the Just Mets podcast. I'm your host, Rich MacLeod, joined by Andrew Claudio. And the Mets make another move, second move in about 8 days for the team. They have reportedly signed Devin Williams, the right-handed pitcher, potentially the closer, to a 3-year deal. Before we get into all the details, let's just get right into it. Andrew, what is your immediate reaction to this signing?
So I'll start here, and I think it's quite literally where every Mets fan started when they first saw this news. And you could confirm this if you felt the same way in just a second.
Mm-hmm.
This better not be instead of Edwin Díaz.
Bingo.
So thank you to all the newsbreakers, and I guess specifically the New York Mets, who announced both things back to back. That A, they've signed Devin Williams 3 years, no opt-outs. It is a straight 3-year contract. I'm just going to wait for Spot Track to update what the deferred money and the prorated, like some of it's deferred, some of it's prorated. There's a bonus in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's around $50 million. So I'm not an economist. I'm not an accountant. I don't know what all that mumbo jumbo meant. I just know it's $50 million. What I then needed before I fully formed my reaction to this was this does not take the Mets out of the running for Edwin Díaz. It is a straight 3-year deal. It is the same concept. If they bring back Edwin Díaz, different people have said different things about what this could mean for Díaz as far as that. But the main thing is the Mets are still in. So, like I said, it's the same concept as going and getting Ryan Helsley, a former closer, and turning him into a setup man. I'm just like Passan, DeComo, Martino, Heyman, Salmon, Nightingale. Everybody reported something of the sort. Williams is open to being a setup man. The Mets are still in. Doesn't mean they'll sign him, but they're still in. The contract he wants is 5 years, $100 million. That's like, let's see if the Mets meet that asking price, or if somebody else meets that, or if Diaz comes back to the Mets price. So all that to say, if I'm just judging this as a setup man, money well spent. And on the day Steve Cohen just got approved for like a money-making machine in the Citi Field parking lot of that casino, he decided to celebrate by going and getting a setup man. And if Devin Williams is one of your late inning options, I know how things went with the Yankees. The Mets have a good track record of taking failed Yankees and turning them into very good, productive players for them. Hello, Luis Severino. Hello, Harrison Bader. Hello, Clay Holmes. I welcome Devin Williams, especially the Devin Williams that existed before the Pete Alonso home run to Queens. So that's my extended immediate reaction. It better not take them out of Edwin Díaz. It doesn't sound like it took them out on Edwin Díaz. I'm for this move then as part of building a productive bullpen.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, and similar feeling from me when I saw the news. It's like, oh, like, wait, what are the implications here?
Mm-hmm.
And to the credit of the many writers, I think I saw at least 3 or 4 guys send this tweet out within minutes of the report initially coming out, was that, yeah, this does not take the Mets out of the Edwin Díaz sweepstakes. And that, I think, makes you hopeful. Again, this is kind of going to be similar to the Nimmo thing of this is good if, this is good based on what they do next. And obviously here it's much more clear cut. If they re-sign Edwin Díaz, I would say that this is great to have a bullpen where, you know, you've already got 2 lefties in Raley and Minter. You've got Devin Williams. You could have Edwin Díaz, a couple other arms in there as well. I think that could be a pretty solid back end of the bullpen that we thought they were going to get last year with Ryan Helsley. Also, just for context, because I've already seen some people a little bit concerned about it. Well, is that the kind of money you want to pay for a setup guy? If you want to just compare this, if you take out the bonus and the deferments, which make it a little bit more complicated, Devin Williams is actually making $1 million less a year than Ryan Helsley just signed for with the Orioles, and Ryan Helsley was significantly worse, had to take a kind of prove it deal there. So I'm not concerned about the money. It's just like, if he's the setup guy, I'm all for it. Yeah, he had a really tough season last year. If you look at the metrics, though, it looks like he did get quite unlucky. He also started really poorly. He had a 4.79 ERA, but his FIP was 2.68, which is a really big disparity. If you're not familiar with FIP, it's fielding independent from pitching. So that kind of takes out like the infield defense and a lot of bad luck that you might see there, which says that Williams probably ran into a lot of bad luck last year. And something that really encourages me is just taking a quick look is Devin Williams' final 13 appearances last year, the regular season and the postseason. 13 innings pitched, 0 runs, 16 strikeouts, 4 walks. It seems like he rounded into form when it mattered most last year. He did it in New York. He did it in the postseason. And he still averaged over 13 strikeouts per 9 last year. The metrics would indicate he's due for a bounce back here. And if he's doing that in the 8th inning instead of the 9th, I'm really in favor of it. Also, just like the connections to the Mets here are amazing. Obviously this was David Stearns' closer, but he also comes to the team that essentially broke him for almost a calendar year. And now we wait to see if the guy who did the damage against him winds up coming back.
Yeah, I we're in full agreement here. I think the fact that it looks like this is piece 1 of rebuilding a bullpen, and it's the same concept as what they were trying to do with Helsley. I'm for it.
Mm-hmm.
He settled in nicely, as you just said, as a Yankee setup man. Once they finally took him out of the 9th inning, when they had Bednar as an option, when they had Duvall as an option, he became a pretty productive setup man. And the fact that this is 3 years, no opt-outs, means, like, can we just remind ourselves what he was before the Pete Alonso home run? So in the 3 seasons before, I'm cutting him short. The 5 seasons before the Pete Alonso home runs, that was during the 2024 postseason. We're talking from 2020 to 2024. It looks like, 222 innings pitched, a 1.70 ERA. And his FIP was 2.24 if you're looking for the Fielding Independent Plus as well. A whip under 1. The Airbender is the nickname for his changeup, his nasty changeup. The changeup that apparently he tipped was about to be thrown to Pete Alonso when Pete Alonso hit one of the biggest home runs in Mets history.
Mm-hmm.
That home run Pete Alonso hit was the second home run hit off of Devin Williams that season. Now he only pitched 22 innings, but if you want to go like the year before, he only gave up 4 home runs. The year before only gave up 2 home runs. Has a track record in 5 of his last 6 seasons of being one of the more dominant relievers in baseball. The problem of 5 of 6 is his most recent one is the failed Yankee season.
Right.
But like you said, we did see him settle into a fine setup role. I'm not going to rule out that there may be, and this is where you can get cute with how you manage your bullpen. There will be opportunities for him in the 9th inning if you want to use Diaz in the 8th inning for a high leverage situation, like facing the top of the order, the middle of the order, and then Devin Williams comes in. Again, I keep going back to as frustrated as I was with the Cedric Mullins trade and other moves that were made by David Stearns last year. I shoot him bail and give him mulligan on the Helsley thing. Nobody could have predicted that that's how badly the Ryan Helsley thing was going to go. And if this is, let's try it again, but with an arm, a player that I know very well because I literally traded Josh Hader to make room for him. And I bring back Edwin Díaz. I like the plan. I liked the Helsley plan when they made that move at the deadline. I like this plan if that is the plan. To your point about and anybody that might have mentioned, like, do you want to spend that much on a closer? Not that I saw that or anything, but
The
if that
setup
is out
man.
there as a setup man, if anyone put
Yeah.
that out there, I repeat, Steve Cohen just closed and got his license approved on a money printing machine in the Citi Field parking lot in this Hard Rock casino. Money is not an option. It's not an object anymore for Steve Cohen, and it never really was to begin with. But now all luxury tax penalties can just, and like we'll see what happens post lockout, post salary cap, but like the money will be fine if they need to figure out a way to get the $15 million setup man off the roster, especially only for 3 years. And that's the other thing. They have no long-term money locked up in their bullpen at the moment. So this now is piece one of hopefully a bullpen that you can count on in high leverage, productive and important games over the next several seasons. So there.
And like, think of it this way. He's making $15 million a year, as you said. I think I brought this up on a recent pod. Steve Cohen just sold a gold toilet for $12 million. So you're really only paying Devin Williams $3 million this year. So it's not a big deal. It's toilet money.
Goodness, man.
It's toilet money.
Shout out, literally toilet money. That's funny. That's funny. Well done. That was good. What do you think this means for Diaz? That's the next element of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to impact it too much. I think it gives them maybe a little, I don't even want to say insurance, but do they try to use this in the negotiations of like, well, we don't need you as much. We have another closer on the roster. And do they do a little chicanery there to just try to save a couple $1 million or shave a year off? Like, I could see that happening. And I don't think it's going to be particularly effective. Like, I keep assuming that they're just going to wind up somewhere in the middle, as compromises usually work. So like, I'm going to trust the reports. Even Martino came out and said, Mr. Negative, that, this doesn't preclude them from getting him. Doesn't mean that they will, but, they're still very much in on Edwin Diaz. And
you took that as negative?
No, I'm saying he usually
Mr. Negative.
Yeah,
okay.
Usually glass half full kind of reports. Even he put it out there that, they're still in on him. So I think that's a good sign. They have to go do it. But, yeah, I think, and I guess I look at the money and you just say, if Williams is getting $15 million, again, you look at that Diaz, like $20-ish million a year seems about right, give or take. Maybe bumps it up to 21 or 22 if they want to give him less years than the 5 that he probably wants. But yeah, overall, I don't think it's going to have too much of a negative impact. And if those are the two guys closing out games for the most part, I think you brought it up. Like we tried it with Helsley, it didn't work, but the strategy is sound. Like it obviously makes sense to have two guys back there. And unlike Helsley, you actually did get to see Williams go from closer to setup guy in New York in high leverage situations, get comfortable doing that. You're going to hope that the underlying metrics and FIP and all that stuff show you that he's going to have a bounce back. But Ryan Helsley never pitched in New York. He never pitched as a setup guy in his entire career. It was much more of a dart throw than here. At least you got a couple months to see what it looked like, and it looked pretty good at the end.
Yeah. The concept we're talking about with Williams now coming here to be the setup man to do what Helsley. I mean, yeah, we looked pretty good at the end. It's literally what the Yankees did. They were outstanding down the stretch and closed out 2 games against the Red Sox with Devin Williams as their setup guy. So I guess 1 game because Schlittler went 8 innings. They closed out the Toronto really game. Good. Yeah, look, I'm for it if it precludes an Edwin Díaz signing as well. And I've thought a lot today about the concept of our confidence meter. I guess we should talk about the Passan report. We have some time. First of all, God bless him for making me log into Threads for the first time in months. For those who don't know, Jeff Passan, ESPN's MLB lead insider, put out a 10-part thread on Threads The key takeaways I had were the line at the end of the Kyle Schwarber post on Threads, that the Mets are in the mix, but he said the Phillies are the favorite, mentioned I think the Red Sox and one other team before mentioning that the Mets are in the mix.
It was Phillies is the favorite with Boston, the Reds, the Mets, and others in the mix.
The Reds, he's from Cincinnati, so if he wanted to go home, he could. And the Red Sox, he played in Boston.
Home runs in that ballpark.
He basically did in a similar ballpark in Philly, so he'd do well there.
Mm-hmm.
Then the big one, I think, as it pertains to the Mets and Pete, was that he put a thread out that involved Alex Bregman and Pete and said, in fact, you have the thread in front of you.
Yeah,
I can read it.
Yeah, I can pull it up really quick.
It was something along the lines of like, it's going to be a slow develop. Like, no one's come to the forefront yet of the Pete Alonso there we go. Alex Bregman and Pete Alonso both were free agents last winter, both produced well, both opted out of deals that didn't reach expectations, and now both are faced with trying to get contracts that better align with their numbers. With the number of teams seeking a middle of the order bat, the chances are good that both are waiting for a team to step to the forefront. I took this, Rich, as this is like Pete Alonso's not getting signed at winter meetings, and potentially Alex Bregman is not getting signed at winter meetings. This is going into January, like a Santander type of thing, you know?
Yeah, it seems like we're going to do the Boris thing again. And I don't think the Mets can afford to wait as long as they did last year. I believe that was like last week of January, first week of February was how long that one played out. I don't think they can do that again, because when that happened last year, every other first base option for them came off the board. So it really was like Pete Alonso or we're screwed. And with the stakes of this season, with what happened this past year, I don't think the Mets can afford to be in that position. I think they kind of have to know by X date, is Pete Alonso coming back or not? Because then we have to get somebody else to play the position. And if you want to potentially fill that role in a meaningful way, like Cody I kind of think that Cody Bellinger might sign next week. He kind of feels like a winter meetings-ish guy to me.
As does Kyle Schwarber, for what it's worth. That's what I also read was Kyle Schwarber and Cody Bellinger, maybe Framber Valdez, will be the big signings of winter meetings.
Yeah. So, do the Mets have to make a decision in the next 7 to 10 days there, whether Pete wants to sign that early or not? I'd be curious about that, because they could be left out in the cold again if they wait too long and somebody comes out of the woodworks in mid-January and gives Pete Alonso 5-6 years that they don't want to give him. And then you don't really have anywhere else to turn at that point. You could wind up in a bit of a murky situation. So I'm not sure what they'll do there. But if they want to sign a Cody Bellinger, you're probably going to have to make that decision in the next week or so.
Well, I think there's a pecking order thing going on here. So my guess is that if Schwarber and then Bellinger go off the board and neither go to the Red Sox, this becomes like the Alec Bregman versus Pete Alonso thing for the Red Sox. And if Bregman goes back to the Red Sox, that leaves the New York Mets. And I maybe there's a chance the Red Sox sign both Bregman and Pete Alonso, but at that point, I'll believe that front office that traded Mookie Betts, or that ownership that traded Mookie Betts and Rafael Devers, will sign both of them when they actually do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how this is shaping up, that it all the dominoes start to fall, and David Stearns once again will be able to get Pete Alonso back at a longer term deal he has to commit to, but at a number that he's more comfortable with than what could potentially have been there at the beginning of the offseason. 4 for 115, 4 for 120. Maybe a fifth year is added. The 6-year deal is just I'm becoming less and less the line about nobody at the forefront
Right. No one stepped
stood out
forward
to me.
do
The
that.
first part of this 10-part thread is about Kyle Schwarber. There is competition for Kyle Schwarber. There is a bidding war for Kyle Schwarber. He's going to get years. He's going to get AAV. Did not say that about either Bregman or Alonso. So that's how I think their value is being perceived so far by the lead baseball insider, which I do think helps the Mets in that concept. Anything else I'm missing from that thread that might have been Mets related?
I would say there's one that is tangentially related, which was just about some of the trade guys. I had texted you, I think, about this one this morning, where this thread, which was part 8 of the long thread, was said trade options with a Tariq Skubal deal exceedingly unlikely. The attention will turn to 3 groups. The probably won't go. Freddie Peralta, Hunter Green, Byron Buxton, Stephen Kwan. The will they be traded? Ketel Marte, Jarren Duran, Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez. And the where will they go? Brendan Donovan, Luis Robert, Jeff McNeil, Nolan Arenado. Then he teased that he'll have more in an article that comes out tomorrow. The big thing I see here is just like pretty much every guy that we've wanted the Mets to trade for is like probably not available according to this post. It seems like definitely not Skubal, and very unlikely that it'll be guys like Peralta or Buxton, who we've been talking about recently, even like Joe Ryan and Jarren Duran, which was a guy you and Ryan Finkelstein talked about on the Patreon pod last week. Not even sure if those guys will be moved. So I thought this was interesting. That was one of the other things that had stuck out to me, was just like, okay, maybe the trade market is not as robust as we were hoping it would be. And if that remains to be the case, then a lot less options out there, because I think I went into this offseason thinking it was going to be a pretty trade heavy winter, and maybe there's a lot of posturing from teams saying that these guys aren't available. We'll have to see, but it could be a lot less guys out there.
Maybe not high profile. Like, I don't think Skubal is being traded. We've already had a Brandon Nimmo trade happen, a Sonny Gray trade happen. Like, moves have already been made, and it's not even like December just happened. By the way, I need to give a shout out. My younger brother, Peter, his birthday is today, and I went out to Suffolk to celebrate with my family, and we discussed like what the Mets might do while we were out there. And I'm happy to report they signed a player that did not preclude them from signing Edwin Díaz. So happy birthday, bro. I hope the Mets sign Edwin Díaz as well.
Happy birthday, Peter.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to wait and see on, because I agree with you. I also, in joining this pod and doing some research about what the offseason looks like, I walked away thinking that this is going to be a trade-heavy offseason as well, because the high-end stuff just isn't available on the, especially pitching, isn't available on the free agent side of things. So, yeah, I think that's where things stand at the moment on the trade market. We haven't mentioned either of the Japanese players yet, or any of the Japanese players yet. I do wonder how that's going to factor into teams' offseason spending as well. If a Murakami sweepstakes, now the different, like how that could affect Pete Alonso's market. Now the difference, Rich, like there is a straight up deadline for all of those players that have been posted for you to potentially sign them. It's why the Yamamoto sweepstakes actually had the feel of a fun off-season thing, because it was like, oh, this player they might go try and sign. There is a deadline to sign him at some point. So,
right.
It wasn't just wait for the bomb to go off like most baseball transactions are, or like we were last year, the first 2 months before Soto eventually signed.
Yeah, Murakami can be signed up until December 22nd. That's the big power bat, first baseman, third baseman. Okamoto, who's more of the contact bat, has until January 4th. And Tatsuya Imai, who is the big pitcher coming over from Japan, his window's open until January 2nd, but Passan did report in that very long thread that the buzz seems to be that Imai will probably sign during the winter meetings, which could be very interesting. We haven't heard the Mets directly linked to him very much. It's just been a lot of like the Mets name may loosely get mentioned just because they're a big market team now, but not a lot of buzz. But I haven't seen many teams get linked to Imai super heavy other than maybe the Yankees recently, which is interesting because starting pitching is the one thing I would figure the Yankees didn't really need this year.
Right. I forget. There's a San Francisco. Andrew Baggerly, a journalist for The Athletic. It looks like. Yeah, journalist for The Athletic that reported that the Giants aren't anticipating making a 9-figure deal for Imai or any other pitcher on the market this offseason. So that's the only thing I've seen reported in connection to Imai, that the Giants, a team I actually thought would be someone that a team that could take him off the board. So if you're taking them out of the equation, that's another Pacific Coast team that you can rule out. The Dodgers thing, I'm just not going to rule out the Dodgers to sign him. I know what he said. I know what Imai said, that he'd rather compete against the Dodgers. Taking them down would be a goal. The beginning of that quote that nobody is mentioning is like, yeah, of course, I'd love to play for the Dodgers, but it would also, the competitor in me would also love to compete against them. So
does it mean anything to you, though, that the report of he doesn't want to go to a team that has other Japanese players, and the Dodgers have quite a few? I take more stock into that actually than what he said about wanting to beat the Dodgers.
Yeah, there's a lot of quotes that can't. I think this is all going to come down to money at the end of the day. Personally, I think if a team has plenty of Japanese players on it and they offer him the most money, he will go there. So that's more how I'm perceiving it. That was a fascinating quote. The NPB is too much of a contact league now. I need to go someplace that's power versus power. Yeah, I took that as more of a get the quotes out there so people, like, you're trying to sell yourself at this point. Light on the comments tonight, but I think we should post Dexter's comment before we get out of here.
Yeah, bringing up a comment from a friend of the pod, Dexter Henry, who you guys know from the past on SNY. He does a bunch of shows for the New York Post. Dexter writes, "Glad to see you guys aren't freaking out about the signing of Williams. We have to see how things play out. If Williams is a setup man for Diaz, then I think this is fine. If he's a closer, hell no." I couldn't agree with you more, Dexter.
I don't know who isn't feeling this right now. I think we all, Dex, at the beginning of the show, we talked about this, like the reaction, I think universally from all Mets fans. And I shout out to Tyler, to Wardy, shout out to Mark and James. You all did the same thing. It was like, let's react as things are happening. So there was a tweet, "Oh no, we lost Diaz." Then the other tweets came, "Oh, we didn't lose Diaz." And like, I personally chose to wait for all the information to come out before reacting. But
yeah,
obviously I think it's more fun to react in the moment. We all did the same thing. "Oh no, this better not mean no Diaz." And when the reports came out that they're still interested, "Oh, this is a solid setup, man. I'm in for it."
Yeah, I think like the tweets, like the Wardy tweet was basically just what we all did in our brains.
It's literally what I did when I saw it. I texted you all jumbled letters because I had just gotten off the road to the. I gotta just pull up the text. I texted Rich because I pull into my garage and I see the Will Salmon tweet. That's the one I saw first, and your text came seconds later. "Mets just signed Devin Williams." I just realized the typo. I typed back in all caps. "They sure ficking be did." And then just a bunch of letters.
Idea what you were trying to say. It just seemed like you were making noises potentially.
I was just typing. I was just like, "This is my outrage, Rich. I just got home. When can we go live?" And then by the time I got upstairs, like Martino's tweet, Devin Williams' tweet. Hold on. What did Puma say? No, he's putting up the Wardy tweet.
A very funny screenshot from Jolly Olive from John Boy of the Tyler Ward tweet saying, "Oh my God, Edwin Díaz is not coming back." And immediately above it is Puma saying, sources say this does not preclude the Mets from re-signing Edwin
Now,
Díaz.
the key part about this, and Tyler, I love you. Like, we want to get you on Just Mets in the future, but 14 minutes. Like,
14 minutes.
All of us felt what Tyler was tweeting for those 14 minutes. I was waiting for the other information to come out that he wasn't signed to be the closer. Once that came out, it allowed me to recontextualize the Devin Williams edition. And yeah, I'm all for this. In fact, I'm starting to like it even more that I look at Devin Williams' numbers pre-2025. Like,
yeah,
I repeat, from 2020 to 2024, this guy had a 1.70 ERA over 200 plus innings. He was one of the best relievers in the sport, 2-time All-Star. And now you're getting him to be your setup man and a 9th inning option. So maybe you have a super pen that you tried to build when you had Ryan Helsley, and then hopefully this time it's more successful. But that's, you want to wrap up there. That's how I feel too, Dexter. And it's how I feel reacting with the full picture. It requires Edwin Díaz though.
Yeah. The moves in off seasons are not linear. Just because they're making these moves first doesn't mean the moves that come after are going to be lesser than. It just doesn't work like that. So I feel like the Mets are laying the groundwork with the Nimmo trade of like that's setting up a move to come. The Williams signing, that's setting up another move to come at closer, I believe. I'm very curious where it's going to go. I think both of those moves are things of like, if they follow it up with what I think they're going to do, then I love it. And if they somehow don't do that, then we can have a very different discussion in a few days or weeks or months about that when the off season is really kind of come to an end. But right now, I'm being positive about it. I like it in principle. I like it in the concept of it. And as long as Edwin Díaz is coming back, like I don't see how anybody could be against this one. We just have to. Now you just got to go sign Edwin Díaz.
That's how people can be against this one if he's your closer on opening day. But
and it's people still got to trust David Stearns, which they still don't right now. So
some people don't. I don't want to put that on everybody, but you're right. There is as we've just largely profiled over the past 5 weeks, there is some trust he has to gain back. This precluding an Edwin Díaz signing, bringing Pete back, trading Nimmo because you're now gonna reallocate those resources elsewhere, like a Duran, or a Cody Bellinger or a Kyle Tucker, like that will gain a lot of trust back. And I think this can be part of that if it's not your opening day closer. But in a vacuum, I like him as a setup piece. I like him as a bullpen arm on a bullpen you needed to rebuild.
100%. Thank you all for tuning into another emergency live stream here on Just Mets. No hat. Andrew tried to tip his cap and realized he wasn't wearing one. Before we get out of here, a little bit of an announcement for next week. Rather than our solo episode that we do every Monday, we're going to do 3 live streams instead of that, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday nights in correspondence with the winter meetings. If the Mets make moves earlier, we might go live a little bit earlier in the day, and that'll be our show for the evening. But we'll be going live all 3 of those days to cover the winter meetings. It should be super, super interesting.
I'll just say the only way that schedule changes is if something happens Sunday night. Otherwise, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, join us on the Just Mets YouTube channel live as we react to the news of the day and whether it's Mets related. I will also just plug, I will be going on with Dexter Henry and in the New York Post studios tomorrow to watch Knicks Celtics. So if you want to tune in for me and the New York Got Game crew over there, we'd be happy to have you join us. So see you tomorrow, Dex. Thank you for tuning in for this. And thank you to everybody that eventually sees this emergency live stream or listens to it on the podcast feed later.
Awesome. If you watch this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you listen to us on any of the podcast apps, please review, give us a 5-star rating. It helps us grow the podcast and what we're doing here. We really appreciate it. All right, Mets fans, we will be back if there is any more breaking news throughout the week. Otherwise, stay tuned for a Patreon pod on Thursday and our 3 live streams next week for the winter meetings. Peace out.